All right, welcome everybody to another episode of the Purified Podcast. My name is Luis Palacios. Joining me today, once again, is my co-host Chris.
Hello, hello.
And Chris, today actually we have a very, very special guest. Please, everybody, welcome the one and only Speedist Chief.
Hi, everybody. How's it going?
Woo, Speedy Chief, how's it going, my man?
Hey, thank you so much for having me on. This is going to be a lot of
Yes, this is going to be a lot of fun. You are again our very first guest here on the podcast, so it is beautiful to have some people coming in from around the world, if possible. You are local though, so but at the same time, it's just nice to have other people watch us and see what we can do here and there. So. Speedy, before we start, of course, I'm gonna say this because I've almost forgot this. This is part of my intro. Today is April 19, 2020. We're here once again to talk more things Pokemon Go related news and updates. And Mr. Speedy, if you can just go ahead and introduce yourself to everybody in the chat.
Hi, everybody. So my name is Speedy is Chief. That's my in-game name. My real name is Will, but all my friends call me Speedy. So I started uploading YouTube videos after regionals of last year. I do participate in the Sylph Arena and do Go Battle League as well, but the Sylph Arena was my first kind of foray into Pokemon Go PvP, and it really gave the game a whole lot of new life for me. I really enjoyed kind of raiding and grinding Stardust before, but PvP just really just kind of helped me to immerse myself in the game. It's really, really fun. I really enjoy it. It takes up a large amount of my time, but I really enjoyed it so much that I started making videos. I did my regionals recap, and then local friends kind of encouraged me to start uploading more videos, so I started doing that. And it's kind of grown since then. I had a lot of support, some great marketing ideas. And again, it's really the grassroots support that grew the show. Without my friends that watched watched the channel early on, it wouldn't have happened the way that it happened. So I'm always thankful to everybody in our local Tampa community. I'm actually not a Tampa native. I actually moved here in 2017 in the summer. So I guess a transplant, if you could say. But my Pokemon Go community here was one of the first group of friends that I made when I moved here, and I'll forever be thankful. So thank you again for having me on. I'm really excited to all things Pokemon Go PvP and Pokemon Go in general.
Well, we are happy to have you for sure. Of course, the first time you and I met was when when I went to Tampa, but we went to a park where Mr. Trainer Club was there. And we met up and we all knew we were part of, at least the local community. Now, I'm not originally from Tampa. I'm actually in the closer to Sarasota area. So that actually helps out and everything. But when I saw the Trainer Club was having a meetup over there in Tampa, I was like, you know what? This is only like 45 minutes away from me. It's not too bad. And we wanted to, meet up. So at the same time, even though I wanted to meet the Trainer Club, I met up with you and another one of friends that I used to have when he was around here, and that's what we started talking. We hang out for the good amount of the community. Was it the raid hour? I think the raid hour for Gengar in Neodura.
Yeah, you're exactly right.
Yeah, so that's basically where we try to we hang out as much. We had so much fun, and then I helped you with your Melton box, and then we of course exchanged contacts, and that's why I wanted to get you in the show when we started it all up and everything. So
Yeah, I actually built my first Melmetal last night. I know I'm like incredibly late, and people are probably gonna hate me when they hear that, but I built it last night, and yeah, thank you for the Melton box. You helped me get there.
no, wonderful. And Chris, I know Chris is a wonderful fan of yours.
Oh, yes.
So yes, before we get on to a little more questions for Mr. Spirit, I do want to say hi to the chat. Thank you very much, King of Charmanders, which is actually a very, very upcoming YouTuber here that he's having some great success out there. I also want to say hello to Papercuts, Nick, Ada, and OP Loser Gamers, which of course I see you on my streams all the time. But thank you very much for joining us, everybody in the chat. So let's get on with some questions, Speedy. Let's go ahead and get this done.
Let's do it.
All right, Chris, do you want to read the next question that we have there for him?
Yeah. Okay. The first question: who are you to the fans, and what do you do?
Well, I mean, I think he already answered that one. I wanted to
Yeah,
say the
yeah.
second question.
I
on
was
that.
like, oh, okay.
All right, let's start over this part again. So, the second question actually we have for you, Mr. Speedy. How did you get into Pokemon Go at the beginning? Like, were you day one fanatic, and what is your current level, your team, and your ranking in PvP?
Absolutely. So I was not one of the first adopters. I know a lot of people downloaded it as soon as it came out in the summer. I was part of the group that kind of like laughed at those people. I was like, oh man, it looks so silly. Like everybody was using AR, so they were staring at their phones and kind of like walking around like, oh my God, look, there's a Zubat over there. And I just thought it was hilarious. And my brother actually started to play it before I did. And then I believe it was maybe July or August of 16. I finally gave in and downloaded it. And I found a Nidorino in my roommate's room because that's where it was, technically on the map. And since then, I kept playing, and I really enjoyed playing. And like I said, kind of in the intro, for me, a lot of the time it was about kind of making the strongest Pokemon. Like I always wanted really high CPs. And then rating came to the game, and I, tried to rate as much as I could. And then PvP came, and it just totally flipped the entire perspective for me. I enjoyed the game before, don't get me wrong, but PvP has just given it new life. As far as ranking, so in this season 2 of the Silpharina, I think they're doing a recalculation right now in the ranking. I think my most recent rank was 237 in the world, I believe. And I don't know if I'm that good. I don't think so, but I got a big boost from the Tampa regionals, so my ranking shot way up. But I think as the season goes on, towards the conclusion of the season, we'll see a more accurate rank reflected. But I'm going to do my best up until then. I'll try to keep winning tournaments. So.
And what's your team in the game right now?
Yeah, so I'm Team Mystic.
Okay.
Been Team Mystic forever. The team medallions came out, and I didn't even look down. There's no way.
Yeah, definitely here too. We didn't change any teams because Mystic is the best team.
Oh well, obviously. I mean, calm, cool, collected, intelligent.
Definitely. Right, Chris?
All about Team Valor over here.
Oh, I knew it.
There you go. See,
I knew it.
But that is great. Actually, you just recently finished. Well, I mean, I want to say recently, but around a month or a couple of weeks back, you finished the regionals for season 2 in the Tampa area, and you actually went 9-0, right?
Yeah, so it was a 6-rounder, and I managed to win all 6 rounds, so 6-0. But yeah, no, it was really crazy. And going into it, I didn't feel like I had any chance of winning. I kind of just honestly, with everything going on with coronavirus, I kept thinking about last year being around everybody and like just the experience of going to Next Ridge Games and just walking into that building and it's just packed full of people and everybody's, really focused and it's just really competitive environment. I kept thinking about that and I really wanted that to happen, but obviously that can't happen right now. But I know that when we get to our real tournaments in person again, it will happen. I can't wait for that. But I just walked into it just with the same feeling I had last year, just so happy to be around everybody in the chat and everything. And I just played as well as I could and kind of figured it out as I went. So I know the tournament recap video kind of makes it sound like I had everything figured out, but as I was watching my battles, I was like, oh, it just kind of made sense after.
Yeah, definitely. And I watched the video for the regionals, and that was actually a pretty intense one. Now, did you do the regionals right before the release of Stunfish or right after? I can't remember if it happened.
I believe ours was right. I think it was right before. Somebody can correct me in the chat if I'm wrong. It was really, really close. I think we did our regionals on, was it the 7th or the 15th? All the days run together.
Yeah, definitely. Either way, I know that when I saw your videos, I don't think I saw any Stunfish, so I'm pretty sure that it wasn't released just yet.
I think you're right. I think it was before.
Yeah, because I knew that you had a team definitely against Bastions, Sumeros, and everything else, but I didn't see any Stunfish in your proximity. Now, I mean, of course, the video is long, so I don't remember every single battle, but I do remember at least not seeing as many as before. Not at least in Chris, because Chris battles in Voyager hasn't been the greatest with that.
Oh my gosh. I added Stunfisk because of how much trouble it gave me, to be honest.
Hey, the enemy of my enemy is my friend.
For sure.
Definitely. Definitely. So, you already told us much about how you are in regionals. Of course, season one, Bowman, you went through regionals. You went through, how to improve yourself and everything. When after season one, I want to ask, how did you improve your gameplay? How did you improve how well you wanted to do to, you get ahead of the game for season two and regionals and everything. What did you do aside from just practice? What was your mentality around improvement on that?
Yeah, so that's actually a really fair question. I think a lot of the time we tie our kind of self-esteem to winning and losing. If you have like a really unfortunate losing streak, it can really kind of become a mental issue where you kind of question your decisions, or you double guess yourself, or maybe you don't feel like you deserve kind of go in there and compete against good trainers. But I think a lot of it is mental conditioning. You just have to understand that, like, when you sit down to play, although the IVs are going to be a little bit different, you all basically have the same tool. I mean, it's the same structure, the same system. It's not like you sit down to play chess with somebody and suddenly their chess kit has pieces that move in ways that yours don't.
Right.
You still have ways to win the game. And I know you mentioned practice, and that was kind of maybe not what you wanted me to focus on, but I do think it was really important, and specifically getting my butt kicked in practice. There are a lot of really good trainers here in Tampa. Our community is really strong. And just after season one, I would constantly bug them for practice. My closest friends, Lyndon, Matt, and Church, I mean, we practice all the time. And then I got exposed to a lot of people in Orlando as well, which is another really strong community, and other places in Florida, kind of towards Miami as well. And just the whole Florida kind of PvP scene is really strong. And making friends with those people and then practicing against better and better trainers. Yes, I lose a lot, but I just try to make sure that you take something away from every loss and just try to improve a little bit.
Oh yeah, that is that. Actually, is a really amazing response. Just because, as you say, winning and losing seem to be a lot of everybody's mind. It's like, okay, if you win, you're like in a hot streak, and then all of a sudden you lose more than you win, and you're like, oh my goodness, what am I supposed to do? I know I felt that a lot, especially in Go Battle League. I've been feeling the burn after trying to go. Since the announcement of walking requirements got erased, and you were able to do all sets in a day, I got the burn after probably midway through Great League, and I was just like, I was trying out teams, trying to get the levels up. Of course, the very few ones are simple, just because you know the mechanics better than some of the people who are just starting Go Battle League, and then. Once you get to the higher rankings, you're just like, oh my goodness, I'm going against this again and again and again. But it's just about practice, making sure you know your moves, your Pokemons. I told Chris that all the time, and everybody who listens to this podcast, of course. But you're right. I mean, if you want to improve, might as well do it in a way possible that just comes out of that mentality. Winning or losing, it's going to happen. Mm-hmm. But at the same time, you are going to need to figure out a way to balance your both that mentality and a way to improve in the long run. But thank you, Speedy. That was actually an amazing question, an amazing answer for that.
Yeah, I think you raised a really good point. If I could just make kind of one more kind of side note. So Go Battle League is a very different experience from Silph Arena. I don't want maybe trainers to play Go Battle League and get frustrated with it and then think the Silph Arena is going to be the same way.
Right.
So the thing with the Go Battle League, I love it. I think it's a really great feature, and it can really help you to improve, especially with things like switching or energy management. But what it comes down to is you can pick 3 Pokemon, and you can go into a matchup where you get hard countered every single time. And because it's blind, there's nothing you can do about it.
Yeah.
And when that happens 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 or 6 times in a row, it can start to affect your self-esteem. I know I get really frustrated sometimes when it happens. It feels like the game and the world is kind of against you. But in that same sense, the Silph Arena, you have teams of 6, and there's actually an element of prediction that plays into it. And if you trust your opponent to make a balanced team where they kind of all of their roles covered, then kind of in the battle, you might be able to predict their next move sometimes. So the Silph Arena is very different in that sense than Go Battle League, where it's just blind. But then if you take that same team from your Go Battle League that you just got crushed with and go up against a different opponent, you can totally just wipe them. So it's really, really it's like rolling the dice, and you can't let it kind of affect your kind of outlook on battling as a battle. That's just my opinion.
Do you think that Niantic will take a page out of Silk Arena at one point and actually start previewing the Pokemons that you are going against at some point?
So I've had some friends ask me that as well. I think that's something that a lot of battlers are pushing because Silph Arena came before there was a Go Battle League. So a lot of battlers are familiar with the Silph Arena format. But Niantic, I think we have to keep in mind the perspective. So Niantic is a company that's built this enormous game, and there's so much to do. There's shiny hunting, Stardust grinding, raiding, Team Rocket battles. There's just an endless amount of things to do, and PvP is one facet of that. And I think what they're trying to do right now is they're trying to kind of open those floodgates and get more trainers into the system. And if you start requiring people to have 6 Pokemon for a specific league, then it can get really difficult for them because if they only have 3 or 4 good ones that they like play with, they might not want to do the Go Battle League anymore because it's so resource intensive.
Yeah, you're right on that. It's kind of to a point where we understand that Niantic has its own core mechanics, and those mechanics will expand and far and long even after everything that's going on in the world. PvP is one, and it has actually been a great way to interact with the game than having to go out and play all the time. So I see your point. I understand that when Niantic ever decides to make PvP or the Go Battle League a more esports thing, that's when you're gonna see the bigger changes out there for sure.
I agree. And I do think they missed kind of one key opportunity with the Go Battle League. I was really excited because, we battle pretty often. I was really excited to see like a different layout besides just the 2 patches of grass with the white lines. Do you guys remember the Pokemon Stadium in Super Brothers?
Yes.
So just imagine if you went into your Go Battle League match and suddenly it was like this big stage, everything was metal and there was like grass on top and all the stadium lights around you, and it would just be so exciting to battle in kind of that background. I know it's kind of a minor thing, maybe I'm just speaking to myself here, but I think they kind of missed an opportunity there, and I hope they implement something like that in the future because I think it'd be really visually pleasing and get people engaged.
I didn't know I wanted it until you said that.
There you go. Yeah, actually, I do feel like that actually could be a more visual opportunity for them to expand on. You're just not battling somewhere out there in the world, even though it's a Pokemon Go, so you go out and play against them. But the Go Battle League is basically a new core mechanic in the game that you battle against people around the world, and even if you can't meet them and it's random, but I understand that kind of visual thing seems like pretty good in that sense when it comes down to it. So all your answers, all of those are actually amazing, and your opinion on the Go Battle League and the Silk Arena has kept us going. So Chris, you want to read question number 4 for him?
Yeah. So I'm correct in saying that you were one of the people that helped run the Orlando Mega Tournament, correct?
I did lend a hand.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but there were others that did more than me.
More? Okay. I know that's kind of where I came into contact with your videos and everything. I saw you running around everything. I just remember that being just an amazing tournament with all the people that showed up.
No, I had a wonderful experience, and it was several weeks of planning, and I want to say that again, to my point where I helped, but not in the ways that some other people helped.
Mm-hmm.
Actually, our local Tampa community leader, Lyndon Ryu, he actually sat out the whole tournament. He's probably the best player in the city, and he sat out the whole tournament, didn't even want to compete because he dedicated his entire day to making sure that the tournament went really smoothly. So a lot of our locals kind of made sacrifices. There was another one from South Florida. Kachino Mum actually pitched in quite a bit of money to like their equipment, get our staff shirts, get everything going. And it was really just a group Florida effort. A lot of people in Orlando helped as well. I don't know if you guys are familiar with the trainer named Zeta. He lives in Orlando, but he helped tremendously with the stream. And then, then we had Go Stadium come by to broadcast everything. It was a really, really special day.
Well, unfortunately, I was not able to go into the Orlando one, but I know Chris was there for the entire of it, mostly because I had to work, and unfortunately, life kind of gets in the way sometimes. So,
no, definitely.
Yeah, it was awesome how many YouTubers actually ended up fighting. Like, Like I'm trying to think of them all. Like oh okay, haha, and well,
Yeah.
Twitter famous at least.
Yeah, Casey's pretty awesome. And then you had Purple Kyogre went on stream.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
You
It's
had
actually that.
Caleb Pig on stream, Valor Ash.
Yeah, that was a whole lot to experience for sure.
Yeah.
And
For the Battles, one of my favorites. She was on.
But yeah, I don't know if I probably the Discord got the cut off there for a second, but yeah, the Orlando Mega Tournament was actually a pretty amazing event that everybody was able to take a part of. Unfortunately, I wasn't, but I mean, it's nice to be able to see those experiences out there, and you know, anything like this could happen again, but once the world comes down to less feverish world, you know, so.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
No, it was a really wonderful experience.
Yeah. So, as we go along with the questions, you already kind of gave us a little intake of how, you know, the Go Battle League is for you and everything. And, you know, some of the things that you want to change, you know, like the visual stuff and all that. But do you think that in the end of the day, Go Battle League can actually improve, and then can it actually go all the way to, let's say, esport mechanic? You know, do you think that that's a possibility with Go Battle League?
Yeah, you know, you need a few core elements to really turn something into an esport.
Mhm.
My little brother plays Apex Legends on Xbox,
Ooh.
and
Mhm.
has a really fun time with it. He started streaming and he just hit affiliate yesterday, so he's
Oh,
really
nice.
really. Yeah, but I mean, there are a few core things that I've noticed he's talked about with Apex versus Pokemon Go as well. And one thing that they really share in common is that both of those games are free to play, and the player base is huge. So many people play Pokemon Go, millions and millions and millions of people play it. And I really have looked at Go Battle League for a long time as kind of the large funnel that's going to take that big player base and kind of funnel them towards PvP. And I hope that continues to be the case. I know a lot of trainers have actually gotten more interested in the game since it happened. A lot of people like me with the Silpharina, a lot of people have picked up Go Battle League for the first time and they said, man, this is great. Like I need to go out and catch things and I need to power them up so I can fight and I can just, you know, continue the cycle. I think in terms of really making the game an esport, I think as we mentioned before, PvP is one aspect of the game, and Niantic has a lot that they're working on. I know right now they are stressed as well because of, you know, the conditions with everybody's workplaces where
Yeah.
not everybody can go in and work because of the virus.
Definitely.
But they made some really great improvements so far to PvP, and I think number one is going to be consistency. The game has to become more consistent for anybody to even consider it because we've had at least on Twitter, I've seen some people kind of approach the PvP scene and say, "Oh, is this something I can maybe, you know, start investing in? Can I build a team and maybe we can sign them to our label so they can go and represent us and it can be, you know, kind of carry that banner forward?" And they've kind of gotten scared off by the discrepancies and the mechanics of it. So I think once Niantic gets more serious about the game and actually makes it more consistent just overall, I think it could do really well. But it's really whatever they decide.
I do feel like that the most that right now they need to work on, aside from, you know, being able to improve the game as a whole, is their servers just need to pick up the pace when it comes down to it. I know that they probably were been working in a lot since the release of Go Battle League, and because of the whole, you know, you don't have to walk and everything, everybody in the right mind might as well just be doing Go Battle League for that reason. So everybody's just like, oh, okay, we'll play, but then you see the amount of people that have to not walk, so that means everybody can play, and the servers just take a load on it. You know, it at that point, you know, the servers can only handle so much because everybody's in and everything like that. So I'm pretty sure that once all of this is stabilized, I'm sure that their servers can improve. But at the same time, I know that they're probably working into a bigger, stronger server for everybody to enjoy. But you know, the server has to coexist both with the other mechanics of the game, with catching, rating, and everything like that. So that's a big major step and foundations to how the game could actually improve. And then, of course, if Go Battle League just, I mean, it's not like it's not gonna have lag. Every game has lag. Every game has problems with their internet connection and everything like that. But I'm sure that Niantic sees that, and I'm sure that they're working hard and from their homes at least, to be able to actually expand how Go Battle League can be improved. And I'm sure they're taking enough feedback from everybody to see that that's the right step into a better and brighter future for the game.
And that's the thing as well. You make a really good point. A lot of other games, you just kind of, whether it's a PlayStation or PC or an Xbox, you just plug it into your main internet connection and then you just go. Well, with Pokemon Go, there's this whole element of cell signal. And we saw this at GoFest early on when the local communities there couldn't even hold the cell signal and people
Right.
couldn't even play at GoFest.
Yeah.
So I'm not an expert on the technology. I'm sure Niantic's working really hard. I know they have the resources to improve it,
But
so I hope they do.
You're also seeing the improvement they've gone since the first Go Fest. Like
Exactly.
they understood that this is not something they could just do in one place. They could, but they had to limit the amount of people that come in, or maybe spread out the area of effects for the game a little bit longer, so everybody has a chance to be able to get the signal. And of course, the partners with other cell towers and everything that they actually helped out for sure. But at the same time, they understood the mistakes from the first time, and then that's what they're improving. And even in the last Go Fest, they've been testing out things like raids in the actual events venue and things like that. So they are working step by step. It takes maybe a little bit longer than usual, but at the same time, there's so much in the game to enjoy that sometimes you don't even see the changes until they actually implement it.
Exactly.
So that's a great way to put it too when it comes down to it. So little by little, the game gets better for that reason. So that's the good part. But yeah, that's basically it, mostly in the Go Battle League. But then we have more questions, of course. Chris, do you want to actually read the next question? I think question number 6 right there for us.
Oh, yeah. So how much do you think you practice for each Silph tournament? Like, kind of on average, I would say. I know there's some cups that are more thought intensive than others.
Yeah, that's a really good question. So it kind of it really depends. So I do practice quite a bit, especially when I'm making feature videos for different Pokemon, because these videos where I feature maybe like a Rhydon or I feature Aerodactyl. I think I did a video against Lemon Lime with Aerodactyl. And those videos actually take a long time because I have to play dozens of battles to maybe get 10 or 12 really good showcases of that Pokemon's ability. Just things have to line up perfectly, and it can be against different opponents. So I have a lot of different practice partners. I need to get into the mode of doing something that Lyndon Ryu does, where he actually screenshots his Great League medal at the end of the month every month, and then he compares how many wins he gains over month to month.
Okay.
So it's really smart. There's probably a better way to keep track. But I probably practice I'd say maybe a couple hours a day. I know a lot of trainers do a lot more than that. A lot of the Elite Four, those guys play at nonstop.
Jeez.
So,
well, it's an addictive game, and once you get the best out of one mechanic, that's where you're gonna roll with it. And that's how PvP really came to be, because the moment PvP came out and Silph Arena was a big showcase on it, everybody was trying to take out videos and everything, and that's how a lot of people that now, like Poke and King, they made so many videos to help the community, and it's been such a great help. Speedy, you yourself has actually helped. I'm sure that your own community has actually been grateful from the tips and everything that you actually implement to make sure that we are prepare for anything incoming in months to come, of course.
Yeah, it's really funny because I'll cover something in my video and then I'll play somebody at a tournament and they'll use my strategy and I just kind of look at them and I get it.
Double-edged sword.
Double-edged sword. But then again, for all content creators, I mean, all these guys have to deal with it, guys and gals, where you have to kind of evolve your strategy. So it kind of helps you as well to kind of put out what you know and then force yourself to kind of evolve past that, if you will.
Definitely. And as practice as it takes, and you just gotta analyze the metas correctly, and each meta is gonna have a different thing to do. And of course, everybody who's dedicated to the Silph and PvP in general, they're gonna spend that Stardust to make sure they have the right months for the right metas. And I'm sure that since all this thing started, every time you see a Pokemon, you're checking IVs. Okay, are these good IVs for Go Battle League, or is this good IVs for PvP? Just the two best ones if you come down to it, so.
Yeah, you're exactly right. I do scan every single thing. I run it through the IV checker if it looks even a little bit promising, and I keep it if it's good.
I do the same. I do definitely the same. But yeah, so that's Silph tournament practices, and then of course we have a couple extra more questions here. Do you go out of the way to check a lot of shinies chances, or do you go more for the Pokemons that need PvP?
Yeah, that's actually a good question as well. I mean, I think everybody who plays the game has certain favorite Pokemon. When Rhyhorn Community Day rolled around, Rhyhorn was one of my favorite Pokemon growing up. So I made sure to catch as many shinies as I could that day. That was really important to me. But there were some other days, maybe Torchic Day, things like that, where I really didn't kind of push as hard. But I think the PvP IVs is probably my superlative. I know for a lot of trainers, if you're a hardcore raider, you're probably looking for the 100%. If you're, shiny catcher, shiny collector, living decks, those kind of style players, you're probably looking for, the best shiny rates you can get. But for me, if it's a normal one with good PvP IVs, I'll take it. If it's a shiny with good PvP IVs, that's just a bigger flex.
Yeah, no, that's definitely right. When at least I got into Circle Arena pretty early when they started, and when PvP was actually just starting out, that was the best way to implement it. Now in our community, of course, we don't have like the greatest PvP community in the world. I don't think everybody does that. Only to, let's say if you see the mega tournaments and all that, but. When this started, we were able to get just enough people to get everybody in, and then everybody was looking into the IVs and all that. But nobody really knew what the perfect IVs were until more guides came out. So everybody was like, okay, we'll probably run this 100% that maxes out less than 1500. But then we'll say no, you gotta say something with zero attack to be able to get better IVs and all that for any PvP meta that in the Great League and all that, which is interesting because. You would think that something like an 100% IB that doesn't max out at 1500 or something similar could beat out something that just has zero attack. But no, that's the definite factor sometimes to tiebreakers and coin tosses and everything else that comes around. So it's crazy to think that the game still needs to implement something that actually lets us use more than just, IB wise. But, that's the part of the game. You get to understand just a little bit more how everything works out. And once you actually get something that's good in whatever meta you're going for, it just, everybody's just like, you will just jump for joy when it comes down to it, of course.
No, I agree. And, a lot of trainers really focus on kind of rank flexing. They get really excited, like, oh my God, it's a rank 4 or oh my God, it's a rank 5. And they just really kind of get wrapped up in that. But something that Pokemon Go has done that I feel like is kind of underappreciated is that all these wild spawns, although they're available for everybody, the ones that you go out and catch are still uniquely yours. Just like in the main series games where you could have a Pidgeot with a certain attack stat, or you could, have certain Pokemon that perform differently in battle based on when you capture them in the wild. This game is the same way. So, for example, if you catch a Grand Bull that has maybe a 3 attack stat, it's not going to be a rank 1 Grand Bull because it needs a 0 attack stat. However, because of its attack, it's actually going to reach a break point against an Altaria and do 16 damage instead of 15 with each charge. So that's something unique to your Grand Bull that nobody else have, unless they have exactly the same one, which is pretty rare.
Right, definitely. Oh well, I didn't even check the IVs, but oh well. We'll check them later, of course. But yeah, you're right. It's just amazing how the mechanics of the game can change just for the differences in IVs and all that. So if anybody out there that's listening to this, or is starting to listen to PvP in general, give it a try. See how a Pokemon that has higher IVs fares against something that has less IVs, and see how that works. There's many guys out there that show you specifically Great League guides and Ultra League guides and Master League guides. Well, Master League is mostly 100% either way, but still, there's many things out there that will help you out in the long run if you get a little more in depth into the PvP area. So, but don't get discouraged, because even though you have something that could be less than 0% attack IB Pokemon, your Pokemon is still the same. It's like it will have maybe stronger DPS, or depending on what the meta is and everything. But don't get discouraged just because you can't use your 100%. You will find in some way, shape, or form to use it in some way or form. And just like Speedy said, everybody has a favorite Pokemon, which that's probably my next question. What is your favorite Pokemon, Speedy?
It's actually a really good question. So it's tough because on your Silpharina trainer card, you get to pick 6. So I got to narrow it.
Well, I think I know that you're thinking there. Anybody that knows me, or at least has listened to me in a while, knows that my favorite Pokemon is Sylveon. Now, that Pokemon, of course, is not out in Pokemon Go yet, but it's coming. And Chris,
Absolutely.
Chris, what is your favorite Pokemon?
It's really down to the nostalgia factor. It's really close between, what's it called, Charizard and Swampert. I mean, Swampert was my first ever starter, and everybody's a fanboy for Charizard. So obviously, I'd go with that sometimes.
Definitely. And
Yeah,
Speedy?
those are two really good ones. My favorite, I guess, just pure nostalgia, is probably Blastoise, but it's between Blastoise and Mewtwo. Those are my two.
Ooh, that's interesting ones. I don't hear too many people say Blastoise, to be honest.
Yeah, Squirtle was always my starter, and I just I don't know, it grew on me. I used it every single.
Well, that's really when it comes down to it. Now, for me, nostalgia purposes could be, something like Pikachu and everything like that, but, Sylveon is Sylveon in my regard. When Generation 6 comes around, which I know is still bits away, but at the same time, you never know what Niantic is in store for that. That's the best. That's for me. That's my best Pokemon, and I'm sure that it's gonna be a charmer to use in a lot of the metas from now on. So I'm preparing a good amount Sylveon army just in case anything happens.
Very nice.
Very nice. All right, so Chris, go ahead and get us to our last final question of our interview here.
Okay. Speaking of how you liked getting the shiny flex, do shinies actually do more damage?
I think the community is evenly divided here. I think we have probably half of everybody says yes. I mean, people like our local Kamarian or Jimma Banks will tell you that they do more. And then the other half, the more kind of calculated people will say, oh, no, it's got to be the same. But I really think, I don't know. Do I have to take a stance right now, or can I just be on the fence somewhere?
Go ahead. Whatever you
take
feel
your
like.
time.
Yeah,
Take your time. Yeah.
That's a tough one. I mean, can we do 2 recordings where I say, different answers?
One for each person.
When the shiny comes out, when you're facing your opponent and the shiny comes out, a lot of people kind of get maybe stunned by it. They're staring at it like, oh my god, that's a shiny Xatu, that's amazing. And then your opponent kind of sneaks in an attack on you. I think that's where the legend. You're just so like blown away.
And that's definitely it. I mean, shiny flexing. I know we have somebody in our community that just loves shiny flexing in anything that they do. And especially because he is our Discord leader. He actually at first wasn't too much into PvP. He did like the first 2 Silk Arena tournaments, and then after that he was off from PvP until Go Battle League came out. And then when he got into Go Battle League, you cannot see how the bar of improvement came up like super quickly the moment he started getting Go Battle League in tournaments. And then everything that that we have taught him over the years and everything that he's been able to learn over the time, he's implemented that with the shinies he has. So he's shiny flexing everything.
Awesome.
Awesome, yeah. Before we continue on to our next rest of the podcast, I do want to say, of course, thank you, Speedy, for answering our questions today. If anybody out there in the chat does have an extra question, we'll cover, of course, in the rest of the podcast. We'll, of course, now move on to the news. Before we go into the news, I do want to say thank you very much. Kino Charmander is still here in the chat. Anima has come around, one of my moderators on my streams. And then Matt Seward, thank you very much for coming by also.
Oh, Matt, what's up?
Yeah.
Spice King.
Well, thank you very so much for joining us on this special episode of the Purified Podcast. Before we continue, or actually, do you guys want to take a small minute break to get some water or anything?
Oh no, I'm perfect personally.
Speedy?
Yeah, I'm fine as well.
All right, perfect. So we're gonna go ahead and move on to the news, and today's research topics are going to be, of course. We already have Speedy talking about everything Pokemon Go and Pokemon Silk Arena related news. But let's go ahead and get into a more interesting news. Now, Niantic, a few days back, they announced more information about how remote raid battling will happen in Pokemon Go. So the announcement came April 15, and as live from Pokemon Go blogs, trainers, we're excited to announce the upcoming changes to Pokemon Go in our continued effort to prioritize Pokemon experience that can be enjoy in individual settings and from home. You'll soon be able to enjoy the following: and they have a lot of bulletins when it comes down. First of all, we have remote raid passes, which everybody's been talking about for the last few weeks. Bonus field research task, body system improvements, CP requirements. We're gonna get all into this in just a moment, of course. And star pieces, lucky eggs, improvements. Like, there's a lot of quality of life updates here that it feels like we could probably talk for another hour, of course, but we're gonna go ahead and try to keep it as minimum as possible for everybody to enjoy. So first and foremost, of course, is remote raid passes. The way that this one is going to work, and I'm gonna get everybody's opinion on this in just a moment. The access to raid passes will be in your nearby. So the remote raid passes you're gonna have, there are gonna be a couple of bundles for 1 Pokecoin for them eventually, of course. But you're only gonna be able to raid the ones that are nearby you. Now, they did mention that invitations will come out, but I don't think they're gonna come out as soon as the implementation of the remote raid passes. Now, Chris and Speedy, whoever wants to start, who wants to have the opinion on this one first?
I feel like I'm gonna be playing devil's advocate here.
So, Chris, what do you think so far about this part of the implementation of the remote raid passes?
I gotta say, the only thing that I'm a little bit sad about is that you're gonna have to buy completely new passes for it. But it makes sense, And I do like that they're limiting it so people can't just raid everywhere from their homes, because I do feel like that would be a little bit overpowered,
True.
especially if we ended up having like another raid day. Like, instead of having to walk or drive to each raid, you can just hit everywhere within like 20 minutes. Oh my gosh.
That would
That'd
be crazy.
So overpowered.
That would be crazy. What about you, Speedy?
Yeah, I'm kind of in the same boat as Chris. I mean, I think it's a really interesting feature. It feels like social distancing on steroids, because with the with the previous gym update, we could be twice as far from the gym as we would normally, and
Correct.
still be able to activate it. And in my mind, I saw maybe large communities or people wanted to raid maybe in a city somewhere where instead of all standing next to each other, you could actually kind of space out. And I think that was probably Niantic's maybe vision. They have a lot of data on how we move and where our cell phones are at any given time. So they know, a lot more about how we actually behave with raids. But this whole remote raiding just kind of feels like an extension of that. I do think it's an interesting concept, and I study business in college, so to me, this is definitely a business move. Niantic's pockets have to be hurting. I mean, people go out and raid. It's like a very active thing, and people that don't play Go Battle League are, what are they doing? They're not spending any money on it. So I understand that this is as much a business move as it is a move for us. I do have a question for you guys, if I could maybe turn the table here and just ask you what your thoughts are. So once this is implemented and people really enjoy it, if, for example, this lasts maybe a couple months and then they take it away, how do you think the community will respond?
So we did discuss that a little bit earlier in a few of our podcasts, and we were, at least speculating how the community is going to react to being taken away in this whole mechanic. One of the things that we strategized, or let's say we thought about, is that because this is also helping the remote raid, like the rural players and somebody who can barely even see a gym out of their area, that's gonna help them actually at least enjoy the game in a way that they don't have to go as far to go for a raid or something similar for it. I did mention that maybe invitations will be coming soon to the remote raid passes feature, but I think that it's something that I know that could take away at any point after this whole thing ends. But I also feel like that it could be really helpful for the people that really don't have a chance to do the raids as much as we do for that reason.
I honestly think they're gonna keep it a real thing. I think that's kind of why they gave you a damage decrease. So that was their way of balancing it out, per se. I'm not sure how much it's going to end up costing, like if it's going to cost the same as a regular pass. I mean, obviously, you'd want to do 100% of damage to, like, duo raids or something, so you don't have to use all your revives and run out of remote passes when you don't need to.
Definitely.
But I'm really curious if they end up keeping them, because it would be interesting to see how they balance out everyone that is there and the remote people, because people hop out of raids all the time to let other people in that like didn't join and everything. Obviously, the remote people don't have that luxury. So
That's true.
I'm really curious about it all. It's a lot to think about, to be honest.
People for a long time have advocated for an in-app messaging kind of service where you can talk to
Yes.
other trainers. I'm not sure that I would really be on board with that. It seems like a lot to police. It's a lot for them to kind of monitor, and they already have so much on their plate. But
Well,
again, like you said, it would be hard for them to manage remotes where people can jump out and jump in and can't communicate.
Well, there's also speculations with the collaboration with Discord. There's also, if you think about it, their other game, Ingress, actually has an in-game chat.
Oh, does it really?
Yes. So it's not something that they haven't heard before, but it is something that's going to be interesting once they do implement it, or if they implement it into Pokemon Go in that reason. So, yeah, go ahead.
I mean, yeah, I definitely think they might end up adding it. I mean, you've seen that they're limiting a lot more that you can even name your Pokemon right now. So I don't think it would be too much of a stretch for them to either like block out the language or just not let you send it at all. Like now you can't even name your Pokemon your mom. I mean, I already know how many people tried doing it like as soon as the update came out for that.
Yeah,
Oh my
definitely.
gosh.
There are, of course, some things that also the blog post did mention that at launch, the battlers or the people who are actually using remote raid passes will do the same attack as the regular trainers who are in local. Now, this is only to help a little bit into the COVID-19 problems that we have, and of course, they want to make sure that everybody has a chance to do the raid. Over time, though, they are going to change that. The trainers doing remotely are going to do less damage in that regard. But that's that's only a launch. We will of course hear more later on once this feature is actually implemented, and of course we see more how it actually works.
Yeah, because I was really worried about that because it's like they were forcing more people to buy the raid pass in order to do the raid.
And then, of course, there is also another part of it that says that there will be a limit of how many remote raiders and actual local players will be in the actual raid. So the lobby can get filled, but there will be a limit of how much it can actually be. So we'll see when those actual implementations come around and when we actually get our hands to it to make sure that we understand how everything works. Just as the same as how the invitations will work once they do implement it, of course. So yeah, that's mostly it. And one last thing, of course, about the raid passes is that they're going to be on sale at a discount price for only 100 Pokecoins. So that means that they're actually going to have a regular price once the discount goes away. So that's interesting. Okay. That's interesting to think in that regard when it comes down to it. So much on the quality of life updates in the same blog post that we have here. At midnight, we're actually going to be receiving a bonus task without having to spin a Pokestop. Now, this is, of course, to help out, the trainers that can't really go out, mostly because of their lockdowns, their curfews, and everything similar to it. Once midnight comes around, you'll have that resource stack. Now, if you have a full 3, there's going to be a 4-1 that's going to appear for that. But if you have 4 already and you haven't completed any of them before midnight comes around, you will not get a new task before the next day. So that's something to keep in mind, but that's actually really helpful. Once again, hashtag thank you Niantic.
Thank you.
Do you think that that's actually really helpful, right, Speedy?
I do. And it's funny we mentioned this because this research task idea seems to be related to me in the same sense as kind of your daily streak and your weekly streak. Mm-hmm. And I remember watching a Mystic 7 video months back. This was before PvP, before a lot of updates had happened. And it was kind of, do you guys remember that maybe 6-month span where Niantic didn't have any events at all?
Basically, yeah.
Yeah, it was just really dead, and it felt like the game was dead. I mean, there wasn't a whole lot going on, and we were hopeful, but there were just not.
The mostly I remember is when the game started, but then after that, there's been a constant stream of events most of the time.
I think it was the place right before they gave us like a giant calendar of like 12 or something events in a row. I think it was like right before that.
Yeah, was it 2017 or 2018, something like? But I think it was like a lull in events. Maybe there was like a couple, maybe 2 or 3 months without events. But I remember that in Mystic Seven's video, he's with JT Gilly, and he asked, I think either JT Gilly or his little brother. He says, "Do you still play Pokemon Go?" And his little brother says, "Not really. I just kind of get my weekly streak, and then I'm done with the game."
Yeah. I think it was mostly just the way that the events were probably taking in a lot of us the burnout in the events. It's mostly that you see many events going on almost every single week in the game. It's just that sometimes it just gets burned out, and sometimes you don't want to do the streaks or do the things that you need to do for the game, just because it's just mostly shiny hunting, raiding, and all of the similars. And I think that was actually the time before the Go Battle League or anything to PvP really came into the scene. So I do understand that. I do remember that type of moment. It's just that this game has been powered through since 2017 and 2018. So it's been full speed ahead from a lot of news and a lot of stuff going around. So I see it in a lot of different ways when it comes down to it, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, no, absolutely. They really have been pouring on the events.
Yeah.
I think it was I think the point I was trying to make is that the brother, I think it was his little brother.
Right.
I don't think it was JT, but anyways, his little brother didn't really play it except to get the streak.
Right.
And I think some trainers are still kind of maybe a minority, but still are kind of in that mindset.
Yeah.
Like, oh, if I can't get my streak and I can't work towards my weekly box, then I don't really want to play. And this just makes it a lot easier for
Also because
I can see that.
the research boxes are also have been heavily lower than usual because you don't see
They
as
have
much
bing nerfed.
legendaries.
Niantic, please stop nerfing. We don't want
Please.
Alolan exam.
Yeah, please. Although I want the shiny, but I don't want it again.
I know, right? We need a 50% shiny rate, and then I'll take.
There you go. I agree completely. All right, so we're moving on a little bit more. Of course, we have also the buddy Pokemon will bring you gifts once you start running low. Now, this is to help out, of course, again, players who can't really get out and spend Pokestops for the gifts. So it's going to be an important feature that the buddy system is going to actually bring you gifts so you can send them away. And that way, anybody who needs gifts, of course, will get them from the specific places. Now, they did say that it's gonna be the nearby Pokestops out there. So that's the question that a lot of people have is like, is it just going to be to the near Pokestops or the nearest or anything in the world, in the overworld? So we don't know exactly when the feature will go live, but we're having like many questions of how it's actually going to be implemented in that case. And it's helpful because not a lot of people can do the same things that we're doing and have 2 Pokestops in our area when it comes down to it. So
Yeah, and I think there are a couple of facets to this. When these updates come out, I always try to ask myself, was this pre-planned or is this in response to the virus?
Exactly.
So, yeah. I think it's kind of an important kind of mental distinction to make. I do think the buddy system has given people another reason to be on the game, and I think this new buddy feature gives you kind of two different improvements. So first of all, it's going to make it more, it's going to make you spend more screen time on the game. So people are going to be like, oh, I just got some items. Oh, my buddy did this. Like, I'm going to play the game more. And secondly, for people that are constantly running out of Pokeballs at home, or maybe they're running out of revives or whatever it might be, this is going to help refill your bag even more quickly so that you play the game even more. So from a business perspective, it's pretty clever.
Yeah, that is definitely true. They did say that, of course, it's only going to be gifts. I'm not sure if they meant they're just going to give you items, though. So that's the differences when it comes down to it. And a buddy of any level will be able to do this for you. So even if you only have 1 heart with your buddy, they will give you the gifts personally. And I mean, it's still helpful just because right now the gifts actually give you 5 to 10 to 15 Pokeballs a day, so per gift at least. So it's really helpful for anybody who just needs to send gifts or get some gifts back in return.
Yeah, sorry, I wasn't aware of the distinction that it only brought you gifts. Wow.
Yeah,
Okay, that
but
makes sense.
we'll see how it goes, of course.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it's for gifts to send out, so people don't have to go out and spend Pokestops to send to friends. I'm definitely excited for it for all the remote tournaments that we do.
Oh yeah, definitely. Though we gotta be careful that we only have probably 2 weeks this week and next week until May 1st for the implementations to go back. Which actually, if you go in game into the today's app, You have 11 days and 3 hours left on those bonuses right now that they're giving us. So it's going to be interesting once we actually do go back to regular, but we'll see how the world is by then. So
My fingers are crossed we get an extension, but see.
Same.
to each his own, of course. All right, so the biggest quality of life update, and I'm sure Speedy has actually taken care of this, of course, is that now you can power up your Pokemons faster. That means that we can actually put in all the Stardust, all the candies in one power up only to be able to power up all your Pokemons at the right CP level that you want them to. Thank God.
Yes, please. Yes,
Did you guys
please.
ever experience max out procrastination? I think that's what people are calling it.
yeah, definitely.
Where you just didn't do it because it would take you like 20 minutes.
It's more like I didn't have the dust to do it all at once.
Right.
I love maxing out for PvP. For raids, not so much. It's more like, hey, buddy, we gotta wait 5 minutes because I gotta power up this Pokemon before this.
Yes, so true.
Yeah, definitely. And I think this is a feature that everybody has been wanting for a while just because I remember even when Mystic 7 was in Japan for the first time for the Mewtwo's, and he was powering up his Mewtwo just to see how it felt out in raids. And he was just like, literally probably 2 or 3 minutes because he sped it up, of course. Seeing him just actually powering up his Mewtwo throughout this whole thing. So everybody was just like, oh my goodness, this is taking forever. And just imagine, that was minutes in the video. Imagine how long it took him to actually power up in real life. So
Exactly.
that's the crazy part.
Exactly. Niantic will see a little drop in screen time because we're not going to be sitting there for 4 minutes at a time
Definitely.
powering stuff up. But I think
Well, the moment that I actually come out and I knew it was live, I went to my 100% EV and I was like, I have a few power up left to do, but then I just looked at it and just like raised the bar into the end and I was like, click.
so satisfying.
So satisfying, yeah. Although my Stardust went under 2 mils, so I was like, maybe I shouldn't do that anymore. But yeah, so that's also another quality of life update. Thank you very much, Niantic, once again, for something like that. Mm-hmm. And then, of course, we have activate to be able to activate multiple star pieces, lucky eggs, and incense through this to the extended effect duration. Now, when the first block released, they said that you could do up to 100 items, which is in technicality over 24 hours. Nobody's gonna play the game for over 24 hours unless you're a madman.
True.
Which it has happened before, but still. But it is possible to now put up more than just 1 star piece, 1 lucky egg, or 1 incense when it comes down to it, just for the reason that you always have to wait until the last second that it runs out to put a new one, and you're wasting precious time to put the next one in unless you're hatching eggs at that moment or catching a Pokemon in that moment, and you're just like all over the place. So it's another quality of life update for everybody here.
Yeah. I the only thing I'm nervous of is, you know how you'll start like an incense or something, you'll turn off the game for 1 second, and then 10 minutes go by and you check your incense again, you're like, uh-oh. That's exactly what I'm
sure
worried
it has happened to all of us at one point.
No, I've been in plenty of community day vehicles where every half hour it's like a drill sergeant. Star pieces and incense right now. Don't miss it.
That.
Nah, for community day, I just have a chill, nice walk through the park for 3 hours, and it's not easy in here in Florida though.
Oh, okay. Especially now we're headed towards the summer.
Oh, I know. I don't want to go back to the one. I think there was one time I actually almost had a heat stroke, and that was lack of community day. I was like 2 hours in, and I was just nope, I'm going home.
God, mine was Tyranitar community day, or Larvitar community day.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I was in Ybor. I'm not sure where you were, Chris.
Oh, I was actually in New York at the time.
Oh, New York.
In, Sarasota, and oh my gosh, the sun was intense that day.
So I was actually lucky enough not to see the heat. It was still hot when I was in New York, but it was nice and covered between buildings and everything. So
oh, very nice. I bet it was a beautiful walk, just seeing the city.
Mostly in the city. I was thinking of going to Central Park at the time because I was with my friend at the moment. So community day was right at that day or that weekend that I was there. So I was like, my friend is after we did some things in the daytime, we said, oh, my friend was just like sleeping in the hotel, and then I was like, okay, let me go play Pokemon Go for 3 hours while he sleeps, because I know he sleeps for like 4 hours at least. So I was like, let me go do Pokemon Go, and I think there was a small little park in the center of the city. I can't remember the park's name right now, but it was nice enough to walk around. There was enough Pokestops, enough gyms and everything to go around. I think I got like 4 Larbitars that day, if I remember correctly, but still. All right.
I remember we stopped for pizza and got some soda, and it was just so freaking hot. It was unbelievable.
Yeah, so I guess I was lucky in that regard, but other community days have actually kept my butt for sure. So, but then, of course, we have just a small little more updates, and of course, we have experiencing soon, and actually now, the battle screen has been more polished. You know, you see the HP bar appears more updated and consistent across the battle system, and then of course it will show that the super effectiveness and the not very effectiveness of the moves. So before, if it was just a fast move, you wouldn't see if it was super effective or not, unless you know that the bar was going faster than usual. But now you actually see consistently what is effective and what is not throughout the battles. Any guesses?
Yeah, and also helps as well with the typing that appears above the names now.
Yeah, definitely. So you'll see what Pokemons have the specific typings. Chris, you had a little comment about that, right?
For the I think it takes away a little bit from the like thinking aspect of it if it tells you which one's going to be super effective against your enemy. Like it is saying it does say above the moves, right? Or does it? Is that not what it's implying? I know that it says it when you hit them with the quick move.
I tried out a few times, and I think the super effectiveness and non-effective actually shows in the hell bar, but then the typings actually go above the name.
Yeah, but it doesn't say it above the charge moves or anything, because that's what my main concern was. Because I know
that I remember.
Okay, because that's what I was worried about, was that people wouldn't throw the not very effective moves anymore. Because I can't tell you how many tournaments have come down to somebody throwing the wrong move.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
And I'm sure Speedy has actually gone through that too, where you know that even though one move does more effective than the other one, then the other move can KO faster than the one being charged, right?
Oh, absolutely. It's all about, to me, it's all about accessibility. Whenever I play games with my girlfriend, I always kind of like, our lead Pokemon come out, and she always says, well, you know, is this good against this, or what should I do here? And I say, well, I'm Venusaur and you're Lantern. So you're a water type. You can see the little logo above your name now, and you should probably run.
Yeah, definitely.
So it definitely helps like new trainers who don't know the typings to kind of get their head around it better. And I do appreciate that aspect. But I can see where Chris is coming from as well, where maybe you don't have to think as much because you're not as actively watching maybe the HP bar, or maybe it just kind of tells you, so you don't have to think about it as much. But it adds another element as well, because it's just more accessible, and it's prettier to look at. I think I like when the HP bar kind of pulses. It just gives you something to kind of enjoy.
Yeah, definitely. But yeah, that's mostly what we have in our Quality of Life Plus rating news. I'm sure that once we get more information and the actual mechanics go live in the game, we'll see more implementations of how they're going to work and everything. But once again, #thank you Niantic, because everything that we have heard right now has been a nice quality improvement to the game. So so next on our list, because we have more to talk about, of course. If we go ahead and say that a couple of days ago, or actually not a couple of days ago, a couple of hours ago, we had a special event, right? And
so many events,
of course, so many things to talk about. But the recap of our incest day, I can't say the word anymore.
Yeah, we made sure before the call to be certain to pronounce it very succinctly.
Yeah, so I'm trying my best here, guys. So bear with me, of course, but
don't worry about it, Lewis.
But the event was live from 11 p.m. 11 a.m. actually, local time, to 5 p.m. local time, where we were going to have a specific times where, or at least an hour each for the duration of the event, where a specific Pokemons were going to come around. Now, if I can get back to the blog post. Unfortunately, I actually just lost it. But yeah, there it is. Thank you very much. So the first hour, actually, in addition to the event, Centric was going to be spawning more frequently. So it's basically like a Centric community day, if you think about it, just because of the way that we see it. But each hour we're gonna see different Pokemon. So the first hour we're gonna see water types, second hour fire types, grass types, psychic types, and ground types, so on and so forth for the next few hours, of course. And each one of them we're gonna have special spawns like Poliwag, Tentacool, Seal, and of course their lucky, incredibly lucky part of Clamperl. For the fire ones we had Growlithe, Ponyta, and Houndour, and then the lucky being Liquid. For the grass one, we had Oddish, Roselia, and Lilipep. And then our lucky one, unfortunately, was Ferroseed. And then, of course, the second time we had Slowpoke, Baltor, and Bronzong. And then, of course, our lucky one will be Gatita, which is a brand new Pokemon that was just introduced not too long ago. We had our bug type, which were Caterpie, Lediba, and Skorupi. And then, if we're lucky, Joltik. And then for our ground type, we have Wooper, Barboach, and Hippopotas. And then, of course, if we're incredibly lucky, the Drillbur. So each one of them were spawning different Pokemons. Each hour was interesting to see. In my personal experience with it, I did see every single type of those Pokemons they mentioned. And, of course, some more the others, and center it all over the place. But how do you guys fare out with this event for you guys?
I loved it. It was a good event, in all honesty.
SPD?
Yeah, I mean, I thought it really demonstrated kind of the unique kind of spawns that a lot of people don't see. So I know in Florida we have a certain biome. We see a lot of bugs, a lot of grass. And if you were to go up north somewhere to, maybe even as far as Alaska, you get a lot of different spawns. So for us, I think it was kind of cool to get a good variety, and it was kind of paced out throughout a few hours. So if you wanted to play the game all day, you could. Or if you just wanted to catch certain things, you could. I was a part of the latter group, so when the bug hour came around, I popped an incense because I wanted Joltik.
Right.
Galvantula is actually pretty fun in PvP, so that was one of my objectives. And I think the event kind of gave a little bit of something for everybody to play with. If you really wanted to catch your favorites, or if you wanted to catch specific things, you could do either one. So there's a lot of flexibility, and it was a well-rounded.
Yeah, definitely. I played through this whole thing mostly because there was nothing much to do to just take care of my nephew. So I was just like popping an incense every hour. A lucky piece too, just because the more Pokemon you catch, the more you need. And but yeah, I like I said, I experienced every single one of them in that regard. And I saw the Liquids, I saw the Clamperls, I saw the Ferroseeds, unfortunately. I saw the Gatitas and Joltiks and Duraburs. I think I got like 3 Joltiks, but they were all high IVs. So they were...
Yeah.
Unfortunately,
I was hoping.
Yeah, I was hoping for a low IB one, but I don't think I did see one
for PvP.
PvP one, or at least in the Great League. Now, I do have the incredible lucky to have a 98 Joltik.
Ooh, very nice.
Yeah, so I'll see how that fares out. I'm pretty sure it's probably better for Master or for Ultra League. But we'll see. We'll see how when it comes down to it. But this was a nice little event to change up, Let's say we missed Community Day, and this is the best way to implement that. There were shiny checklists everywhere, and I got 3 shiny Centrets out of this whole ordeal. What about you guys?
Very nice.
Dude, I haven't had shiny Centret since it got released. I play pretty much daily, and I finally got one this event. I think it was the first one I clicked on too.
Nice.
Oh my gosh. I didn't and then I found out it was boosted. I was like, "Oh, that's why."
Yeah, Centrets were boosted throughout the entire event. Speedy, did you get any shinies or anything relatable to talk about?
Yeah, so I'm in the same boat as Chris. I got 1 shiny Centric.
All right, that's good.
I was always hoping for the unique spawns. You always want more Clamperl and Litwick and things like that.
Yeah.
And whenever Centric would pop up, you're kind of bummed out, but there was always that shiny chance. Kind of kept.
The funny thing is, every single one of the shinies that I got, the shiny Centrets, were gold plus.
That's so nuts. I swear there's some kind of witchcraft.
Sometimes I get lucky with the gold plus for sure, but I'm just like, sometimes I wouldn't look at my screen and just have the gold plus running just because of it, but then I clicked on it and then I checked it again and it was just like shiny. I'm like, why? Give me a shiny of something else already. I already have 2 of this and now I have 4. Either way, of course, that was the event. I'm sure that everybody had some enjoyable out of it since it was a 5-hour event in that regard. So, of course, anybody listening, let us know how the event went for you guys. But we'll talk about it, of course, later on. Or we'll see more about it later on. So another piece of news we have for our research topics is that Abra Community Day has finally been announced, rescheduled for everybody to enjoy it, of course. It's going to be on April 25th of 2020, which is next weekend for us, correct? Yes, next Saturday for us, actually.
Correct.
And that's, of course, is going to include Abra more frequently in the wild, just like everybody else about Shiny Abra, of course, being released finally. And having the exclusive moves of Counter as its moveset. Now, Speedy, what do you have to say about that move in Abra's move pool?
Yeah, so like I mentioned early on in the show, I built some friendships with some really good PvP players, and they do a lot of research. And I haven't done a lot of research personally, but I can tell you what kind of the community is saying. So Haunter, as you know, is a very glassy, very high attack style Pokemon.
Right.
Alakazam with one shield in the Great League, right? If you're looking at 1500 CP or less, Alakazam with one shield, I think it needs Counter, Fire Punch, and possibly Psychic or some kind of other secondary attack. I think it wipes most of the meta. It does really, really well. Counter is the best fast move in the game. It's the most balanced because it gives you both damage and energy. There are other higher energy generation moves like Mudshot, and then other more damage intensive moves like Fusion. But Counter is the most balanced based on the turn speed and its overall quality. And Alakazam is kind of like Haunter in the sense that it's very, very glassy. It's very kind of paper thin. So it can't take a lot of punishment, but it can do really well just in terms of with a shield advantage because Counter is such a great move. If you get it in the right matchup, it can be pretty good. I don't have any doubt that it won't be very good in some Silpharina Cup in the future. I did want to kind of ask you guys this question, though. So something that we ran into with Shadow Pokemon is you weren't able to get Community Day moves unless they were purified and then you evolved them during the event. Or I guess if you could TM them during that Rocket event we had maybe a few weeks ago, maybe a month or two ago, I can't remember. In this case, we have some Shadow Abras that you've been able to catch from the Rockets. And if you evolve them during Community Day, are you going to get Shadow Alakazams with?
You know what? That is actually a very good question. Unfortunately, I was not able to play much of the actual Rocket event during the time. I know Chris did and got some very nice Shadow Pokemons on there.
Loved it. Oh my gosh.
As for your question, I think it's possible because I know that in December, when Community Weekend was around and everybody was able to evolve the Pokemons that were saving for their special moves, I think the people who were having like Rock Smash Tyranitar and they had a Larvitar Shadow, they were able to do the evolution and get the move.
Yeah. I think that might be the case. I could be wrong, obviously, but I hope that's the case. That'd be really cool.
Yeah. So, I mean, we'll probably have to test that out on the 25th for sure, but I'm for certain that that's going to be the case. If, of course, is there any changes before then, I will try to research it about it and then, of course, tweet it out in our social media to make sure that that's the case. But yeah, no, I understand that when it comes down to it, but of course, Counter having, Alakazam having Counter is going to be interesting in both PvP and PvE. And then, of course, we have more in the news section. Of course, the also coming back is the special research that's going to be the investigating illusions, which is basically the same as Abra, just with more special research about it. It's a $1 experience that you can buy off now. It's in the shop right now, so if you guys want to just spend $1 for special research during that time, you'll get it. If you complete it, you can get 13,000 Stardust, a Puffin, a Rocket Radar, and other wars, which also gives us the Elite TM. So a lot of people are actually saying this is good and this is bad. I want to see the side of you guys when it comes down to it. I think that it's a good thing just because it's the first time we're introduced to Elite TMs before the season of Go Battle League ends. But Chris, what do you think about that so far?
The only thing I wish is that the first time we were introduced to them, it wouldn't be paid for. But other than that, I'm definitely happy that they're coming in.
And Speedy?
Uh,
Yeah, no, I think it's gonna be really cool. I know a lot of trainers already have their targets. I think Charizard with Blast Burn right now it only has access to Fire Spin and Air Slash. But if you could TM that baby to Wing Attack, it would get the Blast Burns really quickly. I think that's a big target on everybody's list. Dugong with Icy Shard and Icy Wind is actually a double legacy that's really hard
Oh,
to
yeah.
attain.
Yeah, definitely.
I am a little bit. I do want to kind of maybe posit this question to you guys as well. So, a lot of these Pokemon did have community exclusive moves, or excuse me, just have exclusive moves based on their 2016 or 2017 spawns. Things like Haunter with Shadow Ball or Magneton with Thundershock,
Yeah.
or excuse me, was it Discharge? I believe it was Discharge.
Yeah.
But either way, a lot of these Pokemon had their moves and then they got reintroduced. So, is it smart to spend a elite TM that you only get maybe one or two of maybe a year? We don't know how often we're going to get them.
Right.
Is it smart to spend it on something that might come around, or do you try to create some kind of new combination, maybe with a shadow Pokemon or Purified, or maybe just kind of think outside of the box and do something more creative?
I'm gonna let Chris answer that because I actually have my own answer to it too. It's just that I know that Chris wants to say more about that too.
on like how you're going to be able to access them.
Yeah. So yeah, basically, yeah. So if the moves come back for the general Pokemon, you're able to TM them. What is something that you can only get like with the Elite TM that would be very, very exclusive?
Something I've been looking at is I know a lot of people that use the IV calculators have been mentioning to me Cherim with Power Whip. And
Yes.
normally it can't get it in the main series, but it's in the game file. So something I'm really curious of is if you're going to be able to charge TM to get that. And I haven't heard anyone talking about it because it's so unlikely, but it's in the file. Is it going to be possible?
Well, Power Whip was, I think, a move that Sharon had at the release of his introduction into the game, but then it got taken away probably a couple hours right after that, right?
Yeah, similar story to Stone Edge Blaziken.
Stone Edge Blaziken?
Stone Edge Blaziken. That's an interesting one.
I know Stone Edge Blaziken was in the game, but I personally have not seen any evidence to see that Power Whip Cherim was ever in the game.
Yeah.
Just from what I've seen. I think somebody asked it on Reddit or something, and nobody's come forward saying that they had one.
I think this because nobody knew that it was a legacy until it went away, and it was only like an hours after release. So it was interesting to see how that move actually was taken away as soon as the game file updated for some reason. I do remember at least that much in that regard. I don't, mostly because I do remember the release of Cherim and catching a couple, but I never really got it with Power Whip or something legacy wise. So that was usually the case when it comes down to it. Now, for my answer to Speedy. The charge TM for me at least is something that's gonna help me out and more than just PvP, of course. I have a couple Pokemons like my 100% Tyranitar without his Community Day move, and then also have a Metagross which also doesn't have his Community Day move, which is 100% now. I always wanted those to have their Community moves because I know they're more powerful that way. I know they're 100%. I know they won't fare out in the lower rankings. But now that we have the Go Battle League and Master League available to us, that's something that I want to make sure that I have it for in any case of points, of course. So my TMs are probably going to be going to my 100% just because for me that's more valuable. And the way that they can do more damage in the long run in their own respective ways, So that's at least for me how it's going to be. And if I do need to spend one in a PvP Pokemon, I will. It's just going to have to spend really hard on what the meta is going to be, either for Silt or for the Go Battle League.
Yeah, that's actually a really interesting point. I didn't really think about that before, but if you have like a wonderful, awesome Pokemon that you maxed out and you thought it was so cool, and then its Community Day rolled around and you missed that chance to evolve it, this is actually a really good opportunity for.
Yeah, that was the case for Tyranitar because we didn't know at the time that we were gonna have Community Day moves until we did see them more often. And then Metagross is just a monster no matter what. So when I got the 100%, I just needed to have it. So, of course, we'll get it to the community day moves when it comes down to it. But that's usually at least my perspective when it comes down to it.
I know a lot of people get the hundo like right afterwards.
Yeah,
And it's the
yeah.
worst feeling.
Yeah, definitely. So yeah, that's some really good questions there, Speedy, for sure. And you know, a lot of people will have different opinions, but everybody will have to each, like I said, to each his own. We'll see how they fare out. So yeah, that's mostly the way that Abra community is gonna be. Of course, it's going to be bonus 3 times cash Stardust, which that means star pieces all around people. Especially now that we're gonna have the ability to put them all at once. And then after that, instead of lore modules lasting 3 hours, your incest will actually last more that 3 hour in duration of the event. So people who can get out and play the event will be able to at least stay in home and actually attract the Pokemon through the duration of it. So they don't have to spend more than one of those at a time. So yeah, that's pretty nice. Thank you very much for Payne to come into the chat, and Man of Justice 21. Thank you very much for joining us also. So we're almost actually that is all we have for the news today. No, actually, what am I talking about? There is one left. What am I talking about? I'm going crazy. It's been over an hour, guys. All right, so the very last event announced on April 16 is the event with bonding with your buddy Pokemon. It's coming up. And this is going to be an event specifically for buddies. It says time to buddy up and enjoy an event together with your Pokemon Go buddy. Spend time with your buddy Pokemon with special bonuses like decreased walking distances for any body candy and hearts with your buddy. If you're a dedicated trainer, you may even get more items and souvenirs from your buddy. Looking for a Pokemon to make your pal during this event? Alola Meowth, Chansey, Eevee, Feebas, Lillipup, and Joltik make his great buddies and will appear more often in the wild. Woodward will also make a special appearance. This is also introducing Volpe and Illumise, the Firefly Pokemons, which I know that already are part of the regionals, but they will be joining the fans in all regions of the world. And if we're lucky, we can get them to be shiny. Guys, what do you guys think about this so far?
I mean, just the fact that I'll be able to see Volbeat is really cool, but shiny Volbeat is one of the best shinies in the game, and it's very underrated. I will say that.
Speedy?
Yeah, I mean, I agree with Chris. I think the spawns are going to be pretty fun.
Mm-hmm.
Always when I hear news, I always try to put it through a PvP filter and kind of think of how this can benefit me as a battler. That's where my mind goes every time.
Well, you're gonna see more Joltik, so you're gonna basically see more chances of getting a low IB one.
Yes,
PvP Chansey, man.
You knew exactly what I was thinking. So,
well, you've been talking about it for a while, so I understand. And then of course we're gonna see. I think Alola Meowth is going to be in the wild, so that's actually gonna be pretty nice to see from now on. I do have a Bulby that's actually from a friend's trade that they went to France. They were able to get a few couple. So it's kind of sad to see that it's not exclusive anymore when it comes down to it. But it's going to be nice if we actually get the shinies at that time. So on Tuesday, April 25th, from 8 a.m. to 10 p.m. local time, actually to the 27th, we'll see Voltian and Illumise found in specific regions appearing everywhere in eggs and reward encounters, and of course the shinies. First time encounter with Woodbud in the wild, and it's also going to be available in 2K number X after the buddy up is over. The following Pokemon will appear more frequently, which we already mentioned: Alola Meowth, Chansey, Eevee, Feebas, Lillipup, and Joltik. The following Pokemon will be hatching from 5 games at a higher rate: Alola Meowth, Eevee, Feebas, Lillipup, Joltik. Come on, Niantic, why do you have to make me say it twice? And enjoy an event exclusive refill research stats that reward Stardust encounters with Alola Meowth, Volpe, Illumise, and Woobat. The bonuses for this event, of course, are going to be the buddy Pokemon bringing out more surprises, souvenirs, and then of course being able to install more hearts into it. The earn a buddy candy will be halved it, so you don't have to spend so much to actually get it. Easier buddy to get excited, so that means that you don't actually have to spend 3 hours to get into the excited move without the buffing. If we feed it berries, of course it will be they will last twice as long in the map and earn twice the experience for evolving Pokemons, your buddy or otherwise. So yeah, a lot to talk about in that event. It's gonna be starting on this Tuesday, which is gonna be nice because we need another event going up, of course. And I think that it's going to be interesting and see how this event will fare out for sure. So I think once again I can finally say that we have all the news for today. Thank you so much for everybody in the chat, everybody who has come around. Speedy, thank you so much for joining us on today's podcast. Thank you very much for being our very first guest.
I'm absolutely honored and humbled. I really, really appreciate it. This has been a lot of fun. You guys are.
Yes, it's been amazing fun. And Chris, once again, I do want to thank you, of course, for joining us in today's podcast again.
Thank you. It's always fun.
And of course, if you want to email us, info@purifiedpodcast@gmail.com. You can go, of course, send us as much emails if you want to. We want to hear from you guys. You can also text us or voicemail us at 941-417-9243. Voice message will be greatly appreciated so we can actually talk about it in the podcast. You can find me, of course, at Pure Let It Go on Twitter. Chris, where can they find you?
You can find me on Twitter at ChrisTO0517.
And then Speedy, of course, can you plug in any of your information out there so they can find you?
Yeah, absolutely. So on Twitter, I'm Chief, the number 2, Speediest. Twitter kind of scrambled my name when I submitted my profile, but it's okay.
Right.
So Chief 2 Speediest on Twitter, and then on YouTube, just Speediest Chief 2. Make sure to type the I, because otherwise you'll get Speediest Chef and it's a bunch of cooking videos.
That's great. But yeah, once again, I want to thank everybody for joining us and everybody who's been in the chat talking nonstop and everything that's going through. So thank you so much again for listening to the podcast. And of course, if you want to review us a little bit more out there, we are also an Apple Podcast, Google Podcast, Stitcher, and other podcast feeds. So thank you once again to everybody for joining us. And of course, we'll see everybody at a later date. Have a good night.
Adios.
Thank you.